The xTStairPicketRail can be found in the Technical Applications and Components pane. We have Parameters tab, Materials tab, Guardrail tab. It has the top rail on the post, the handrail, which is the handrail and the bracket information. Pickets has the pickets and the bottom rail settings. And the concrete stair, we have some separate settings for if you're applying this to a concrete stair instead of a steel stair. So in the Parameters tab, you can specify which side of the stair you want the rating to be created on, left or right, and you can set the handrail on or off. You can turn the pickets on or off and have just the post and the top rail, and you can set the properties file to use for creating the miters that the plugin creates. On the Materials tab, we have a top rail, bottom rail, handrail, picket, post, and a bracket, all the parts that are created. So if we want to edit one of those parts, say if we want to change the profile for the top rail, we can double click to open it and it'll open up the profile catalog, and you can choose just about any kind of profile you want for the different parts: channels, bars, pipe, square, rectangular, tube, solid, rods, or square bars. In this case, we'll just change it to a different pipe size, 1.25" standard pipe, and then we'll OK to accept it. We can see it changes it in the parts data grid, and we can drag and drop it to update the bottom rail, handrail, the same profile, and the post. So updated all the profiles very easily in there. So on the guardrail, there's a lot of different settings. We have a distance list for the post spacing. If you set it to maximum, it uses the first distance in the list, or you can do exact from top, which is left to right, or exact from bottom, which would be bottom post going to the left. And then you can set from the end of the stringer to the top post, bottom end of stringer to the first bottom post. And then you can extend the top rail past on either the bottom or the top end if you want to. You can set what you're dimensioning to on the top rail, either the top of the top rail or the center of the top rail. And then the rail heights we have from floor, top floor, to the top rail. And if we change that, and we can drag and drop those values onto the sloping nosing line to the top rail, and also from the bottom floor to the top rail. We have settings for how the posts are created. On the top, you can extend past the top of the stringer and put a dimension in. Same thing on the bottom for the sloping, and also on the bottom. You can change that dimension or the settings. You can change the cope offset distance for if you're creating it out of pipe. And this is the post, bottom rail to post, or post to top rail. You can change the rotation of the post. You can change the rotation of the top rail also. And then we also can change the weld. This is the post to the top rail weld. We can turn it on or off, or if we double click, we can open it. And we can load pre-saved settings from files, just like you can in Technical Structures normally UI. And then in the handrail tab, we can set a lot of different options on there. On the top left, we can change different type of ends. We can go straight, level, we can return vertical, we can have an end loop, or we can have return to post end loop. Same thing on the bottom, extending straight, level, vertical, end loop, or return to post end loop. And then also we can combine that with straight return or a wrap return on the top end, and also on the bottom end. You can wrap it or return straight. Again, like on the top rail, you can set it to go to the top of the handrail, your height dimensions, or to the center line of the handrail. And we have several bracket settings, the radius, the offset from the center of the post, and the height of the bracket. And then the end of the loops, top and bottom, go from the top and bottom nosings respectively instead of from the stringers. You can send your end loop. You can set your height on the top, height on the bottom, and height on the sloping like you can on the top rail. You can change the rotation of the handrail profile, and you can change the rotation of the bracket profile. You can also change the end loop properties, height and return, top and bottom. You can change the weld for the bracket to the post. This also is the same weld that's used from the bracket to the handrail itself. And then on the pickets tab is where you set the bottom rail settings and the picket settings. Here we can change the dimension from the stringer, top of the stringer, to the bottom or the center of the bottom rail. Picket space maximum dimension, the bottom rail rotation, and the picket rotation, profile rotation or part rotation. You can also set the weld to the picket to the bottom rail, which is the same weld to the top rail, and the picket bottom rail welded to the post settings. You can change how the pickets are created. They can cut a hole and insert into the top rail, or you can set the extension length of the picket to the top rail. Same thing on the bottom rail. You have a hole tolerance setting and an extension length if you want. You can also set the precision that you want to see in the fractions in our distance controls. Here we set it to 32nd of an inch, so you can see that. On the concrete stair, we have different settings from the nosing line to the bottom rail, which overrides the steel stair if you're inserting on a concrete stair, from nosing to first post and nosing to bottom post instead of from end of stringer. And then we have a nosing offset for, this is used in the maximum calculation. It sets all the posts and nosing back and so far down into the tread if you have this extension. And it uses the concrete setting instead of the steel distance. So that's pretty much the overview, quick overview of the dialog. We'll go into more in depth on different things later.